I faked my own kidnapping to skip my sister's wedding, and it spiraled into an FBI case, a postponed wedding, and me becoming a fake kidnapping survivor who speaks at support groups. I need to get this off my chest because I've never told anyone the full story, not even my therapist gets the real version. My sister Ashley and I have never gotten along. She's the golden child, I'm the difficult one, and when she got engaged she made it very clear I was only invited to the wedding because our mom threatened to skip it otherwise. Growing up, every fight we ever had somehow ended with me apologizing, even when I hadn't done anything wrong. So when the wedding invite showed up with a note that just said, "Please behave," something in me snapped. 3 weeks before the wedding, I panicked. I couldn't sit through a 5-hour ceremony pretending to be happy for her. So I did something insane. I drove 2 hours to a rest stop, left my phone in a trash can with the location services on, smashed my car window from the inside to make it look like a struggle, and disappeared for 4 days into a motel under a fake name, paying cash. The plan was simple. Come back 4 days later, cry about someone letting me go, milk the sympathy, skip the wedding entirely because recovering from trauma. Diabolical, I know. I even practiced my fake shaky voice in the motel bathroom mirror. I want you to understand how deep I was into this. I had a whole backstory. A gray van. A man with a raspy voice. I had timelines memorized. What I did not plan for was some random guy finding my phone in that trash can, seeing my family's group texts freaking out about my disappearance, and deciding to impersonate my kidnapper to extort actual ransom money from my parents. He texted my mom demanding $40,000 in gift cards, and get this, he even used details from my own texts to sound convincing. He knew my dog's name. He knew my middle name. He was building a whole character off my own phone history while I was 2 states away doing absolutely nothing productive with my time. My parents called the FBI. There was an actual case file opened. Actual agents assigned. Meanwhile I was sitting in a motel room 200 miles away watching cable television and eating gas station nachos, completely unaware that a total stranger had turned my fake kidnapping into a felony extortion case using my own phone as the evidence. I found out when I turned on my backup phone, the one nobody knew I had, just to check the news out of boredom, and saw my own face on a local station under the headline, "Missing Woman, Possible Abduction." I had a full breakdown in that motel bathroom. Actual hyperventilating, sliding down the tile wall, the whole cinematic collapse. I couldn't come forward without admitting I staged the whole thing, but I also couldn't let my parents pay $40,000 to a random extortionist for a crime that never happened. That felt like a bridge too far even for me. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called 911, hysterical, saying I'd escaped, and gave a location 2 hours from the actual motel so nobody could trace back to where I'd really been staying. When the police and my parents showed up, I stuck to a vague story. Blindfolded the whole time. No memory of my captor. Could not identify anyone. I cried on command, which honestly surprised even me with how easy it was. Here's where it gets worse. Because now I was an actual kidnapping victim in the eyes of the state, which meant I had to keep the lie going indefinitely. Detectives wanted follow-up interviews. A victim's advocate was assigned to me. She was lovely. She brought me a care package with a weighted blanket in it. I felt truly, deeply awful accepting that blanket, and I still have it, and I still use it, which tells you everything about my character. The FBI eventually caught the extortion guy separately, because it turns out he tried the exact same scam on someone else a month later and got sloppy with his own phone's location data, the same mistake he'd exploited in me. He had no idea his victim wasn't real. When they arrested him, they asked me to help identify his voice from the ransom calls, since I was technically the victim of record. I sat in a room with 2 agents and a recording of a man threatening my own parents over a crime I invented, and I had to act like I was hearing it for the first time. I nodded along. I even added a fake detail, said the voice sounded like he had a slight accent, just to seem more helpful. That detail ended up in the case file. It is, as far as I know, still in the case file today. You would think that would be the end of it. It was not the end of it. Ashley, my sister, the bride, decided that since I had survived a kidnapping right before her wedding, the whole event needed to be reframed around my trauma. She postponed the wedding by 2 months out of what she called respect for my healing process. I tried to talk her out of it. I told her I was fine, that I wanted her to have her day, but she wouldn't hear it. She started crying and said, "You could have died and all I care about is a party. What kind of person does that make me?" I had to comfort my sister about a kidnapping that did not occur, while personally being the reason her wedding got delayed by 2 months. The rescheduled wedding came with a twist I never saw coming. Ashley's now husband, Derek, works in corporate security, and he decided, as a surprise gift to me, to hire a private investigator to try to identify my kidnapper's accomplices, because he was convinced the guy who called for ransom couldn't have acted alone. He presented this to me at a family dinner like it was a romantic gesture. Everyone clapped. My mother cried. I sat there smiling while a man I barely knew announced he was going to spend his own money digging into a crime that existed only in my head. For the next 6 weeks I lived in low-grade terror that Derek's investigator would find the motel receipts, the fake name, the cash withdrawals. I started sleeping 4 hours a night. I lost 11 pounds without trying, which everyone attributed to trauma, and honestly, at that point, it was trauma, just not the kind they thought. The investigator did find something. Not what I feared, but almost worse. He found the guy's old apartment, and inside, taped to the wall, were printouts of my social media, my family's social media, screenshots of the group chat, all of it, essentially a shrine of research this man had built to run his extortion scheme. Derek showed me photos of this wall like it was proof of how much danger I'd been in. I had to look at pictures of my own face taped to a stranger's wall and perform shock and fear I did not actually feel, because by that point I was mostly just exhausted. At the actual wedding, months later than originally planned, the officiant opened the ceremony with a line about how the family had already survived the unimaginable together before the couple even said a word, and the entire room turned to look at me. I stood up. I don't know why I stood up. Nobody asked me to stand up. I just stood, and the whole room started applauding, and I had to wave like a parade float while internally screaming. It has been over a year now. Ashley still brings it up at family gatherings, usually to strangers, usually starting with, "Did you hear what happened to my sister right before my wedding?" I have become a permanent guest character in a true crime story about myself that never actually happened. My mother started a support group for families of kidnapping survivors and asked me to speak at the first meeting. I said no so many times that saying yes eventually felt less exhausting than continuing to say no, so I stood in a church basement and told 11 strangers a story I made up to skip a wedding, and 3 of them cried, and one woman hugged me for what felt like a full minute, and I hugged her back because what else was I supposed to do? The extortion guy is currently serving time, in part because of a case built on a crime I invented to avoid dancing to a Journey cover band. I have thought about writing him a letter. I have not written him a letter. I don't know what I would even say. Sorry my elaborate lie became the evidence that put you away. Thank you for accidentally taking the heat off my own scheme. There is no card for this. I still have the weighted blanket. I still have not thrown away the receipt from that first bag of gas station nachos, which is a genuinely deranged thing to keep, and I know that, and I'm keeping it anyway. Some nights I think about just telling my mother the truth, and then I remember there is a federal case file with my name in it as a victim, an actual FBI file, built entirely on a lie I told so I wouldn't have to give a toast. So that's it. That's the story. I faked my own kidnapping to skip my sister's wedding, someone tried to actually ransom me for it, the FBI got involved, my sister postponed her wedding out of guilt, my brother-in-law hired a private investigator who found a literal shrine to me on a stranger's wall, and I have now spoken publicly, more than once, as a kidnapping survivor, about a kidnapping that never took place. I will be taking this secret to my grave, right after I finally throw out those nachos, which, if we're honest with each other, is probably never going to happen.